Hello guys and welcome to the book vlogs, or episode 1 of On Wednesdays We Read Books. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I have finally made some decisions and Wednesdays are officially our days. They're the days for those of us that like reading about books, that like talking about books, and that just like hanging out on BookTube because it's just one of the most like fun and like calming places to be. Or that's how I feel anyway. I love BookTube so much and I'm joining it. So from now on, Wednesdays is going to be a new book video every single week. For those of you that enjoy my channel more for just like the classic lifestyle-y stuff and don't really care so much about the book focus bits, then every single Sunday I'm still going to stick with my regular lifestyle vlogs uploaded on Sundays. But Wednesdays is book day and today's Wednesday, so today is book day. This is officially me christening the Pink Room with its first like proper video, apart from obviously me unveiling that we finally painted it. And thank you so much to those of you that have given me advice on how to get this bookshelf painted. I think I'm gonna do it. I think I probably will paint it pink. The only other like rogue thought I had was if I painted it white, like the way the door, you can't see it from this angle, but the door is still white because it kind of looks like there's kind of white trimming amongst the pink. And I was like, I could paint it all white and then the bookshelf is white amongst pink walls, or I could just stick with pink so it's more of that kind of colour drenched look. I don't know, we'll work it out. But I'm loving having a bookshelf, even though I don't have too many books. I've got a few sections of it filled, or semi-filled, but I've made a bit of a promise to myself that I'm not gonna do, or maybe I will treat myself my birthday or something, but by and large, I don't wanna do like those massive hauls of books just to buy books for the sake of filling my shelf. Because, well, one, that's a big outlet of cash in one go to do those like 60, 100 book hauls that I see. That's crazy money, in my head anyway, to do in one hit. And two, I love the process of going to buy a book. Like when I finish a book and I get to start a new book, it's just so much fun being able to go to the shops and like pick out a new book or pick out like a couple of new books at a time. So I'll just see how I go. So hopefully I don't seem like too much of a like fake booktuber because I don't have a bookshelf that's like rammed with books. But anyway, we are here for the love of books. If you're like me and also just cannot get enough of the book content, then also you go check out my TikTok, because my TikTok is like a full-on book TikTok. There's no like lifestyle-y stuff on there at all. That's just like exclusively books. But then Instagram is more the lifestyle-y side, so you can pick and choose. I'm everywhere these days. I'll also make sure that I keep linking my Goodreads in all of these Wednesday videos as well. Again, be patient with me, I'm updating Goodreads as I go. I haven't done the process of like putting in all historical books yet. I've only been putting in the books that I've started reading from this year, so I need to do a bit of a backdated situation of putting in all the books I've read kind of before this year, before I got my account. Anyway, getting all that stuff out of the way, it is now officially time to talk through all the books that I read in May. I know this is like a couple of days early, so I probably will finish like another book before we actually hit June, but this is my May wrap up and a look at my June TBR, which I'm so excited for. And I feel like for me, May was a bit of a weird reading month, so we have lots to discuss. Do this. I can probably empty most of my shelves for the books I read in May. We read a lot of Elsie Silver. We also read a lot of Emily Henry in May. We read some Hazelwood. Can you sense a theme? Can you sense a genre theme? Whoopsie. We read a bit of Rebecca Yarros in May. Let's quickly check the Notion reading journal, see if we've missed anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, we did 10 books in May, and these are the ones of those 10 that I have the physical versions of, as opposed to the ones that are on my Kindle. May felt like quite a weird reading month for me, to be honest. I had a really fantastic first couple of weeks of May, and then honestly I've been in kind of a slump, and I feel like literally in the last 48 hours I've come out of that slump. But even having like, I probably had a slump for like 10 days, but even having like a 10-day slump for me just felt so weird, because this entire year I've just always had a book on the go. I've always been loving it. I've always just been all in on whatever I was reading. And gosh, a reading slump is depressing. I feel like that probably was my first reading slump ever, really. Or ever since I've kind of got this intensity for books. But anyway, let's start talking about all the books I read in May. Okay, I know sometimes they say save the best till last, but I think these books are part of a reason that I ended up in a little bit of a slump for the rest of the month. I don't think they're the main reason, but they probably contributed, because we started off May so strong. I love these books. And I am indeed talking about Chestnut Springs, Elsie Silver. I've still got 2 of the books on their way, the physical copies. I originally read these on my Kindle, and then when I went shopping for the physical copies, the bookshop that I was in didn't have 2 of the books. But thankfully, I've got all of my favourites here. And Wild Love, which is Elsie Silver's new release that only recently, I think it came out in April, so that's a very new one. So let me talk about Chestnut Springs. I think actually in my last reading vlog, or in one of my reading vlogs recently, I talked about how I got a little bit of whiplash going straight from a very like YA romance April, where everything was very kind of closed door romance, fade to black, very innocent, and I love YA romance so much. I loved all the YA fantasy I was reading. It was just, it's so wholesome. These cowboys are not so innocent. When I started reading these books, I literally was like, my jaw literally kind of hung open because anyway, like I said, it was just a big contrast to go from Once Upon a Broken Heart Disney fairy tale to very bad-mouthed, very sex-obsessed cowboys in a small town. So, for those of you that don't know, Chestnut Springs is a small town romance series. It's set in Canada, in a small town near the Rockies. Each book essentially follows, this is a slight oversimplification, but each book essentially follows a different brother as part of a family. A couple of the people's books are like family friends of those brothers, but basically it's a book per brother. And it felt like a bit of a guilty pleasure read at first, which made me feel like I couldn't give it 5 stars, but I'm over that now. This is a full 5-star series for me, like so hardcore 5-star series. I've basically thought about nothing else all month. I cannot stop thinking about these books. Somehow they're like so sexy, but so wholesome at the same time. Like all I want to do is be invited to an Eton family dinner, because those family dinners were just, they just gave me life. Anyway, definitely a warning that there is very high spice content in these books. I'll run through each of them super quickly. So the first book, Flawless, I probably wouldn't give like a full 5 stars to this first book, but this one is about the youngest brother. This one's about like a bull rider and kind of like a city girl. It's forced proximity. It's kind of grumpy sunshine, but such a good introduction into the town of Chestnut Springs and the family. The second book, Heartless, I think this one is so many people's favorites, and sometimes it's mine. Like over the course of the month, I keep flip-flopping on which of the 5 books is my favorite, but this is 100% a 5-star read for me. This, in terms of tropes, is actually like a single dad trope, and definitely grumpy sunshine. And to be honest, a little bit of forced proximity as well. They're kind of all in there. The man in this is just absolutely perfect. And to be honest, the woman is even more perfect. I think I put on my Goodreads review, I can't really remember, that I want to be Willa when I grow up. Even though she's younger than me. I think she's like 26 or something, but I was like, I want to be you when I grow up. She's just like so fierce, so feisty, so confident, so self-assured. I just loved it. So absolutely 5 stars for Heartless for me. And then I actually can't remember which one comes next. I think the next book in the series is then Powerless. Oh, I should say Heartless. So the first one is a bull rider. The second one is more about like a proper, I guess he's like a cowboy ranch owner, like runs the farm. And then the next one, Powerless, which I don't have the physical copy on me. It's on its way, actually, it should arrive today. Powerless is about a ice hockey player who's kind of like an adopted brother of the family. And that is kind of like best friends to lovers, which is such a nice story. It feels a little bit separate from Chestnut Springs, just because quite a lot of it happens when they're on a bit of a road trip, and it's just a little bit more removed from the family because the male character is not a member of the family, like explicitly, but still absolutely love it. But again, that one for me is probably like more like 4.5 stars, not like a full 5 stars. And then the next one, this one is currently my favorite. Like I said, it switches between Heartless and Reckless. Reckless is about a bull rider and a doctor. The female character in this book, I just absolutely love it. This is like the sister from the first book's love story, and she is just everything. She's overwhelmed and uptight and kind of bitchy and rude, and she's hurting and she needs someone to look after her. And Elsie Silver, who is the guy in this, he's the man for the job. Honestly, it's absolutely perfect. It's so good. This is like accidental pregnancy, which is not a trope that I would have thought that I would enjoy, but it's really fantastic. Absolutely love it. And then the final book, I'm sorry if you can hear all the drilling going on from my neighbours, but it's not ever going to stop, so we just have to plow on. And the final book is called Hopeless, and that is about the brother that works in the military, and he has been deployed overseas and he's come back, and he has some PTSD from that time and some injuries from that time, and he meets a local girl from the town. That one, I still absolutely loved it, but I feel like I loved it only because I kind of forced myself to look away from a couple of issues. My 2 main issues with Hopeless was, one, For me personally, the age gap felt slightly uncomfortable. I think partly because of her like very innocent personality, and then partly just the time that the ages were. So I think she's 22 and I think he's 35 or 38, I'm not sure. I just feel like if she had been 25, 26 and the age gap would have been the same, that just would have felt a little bit better. Or just a little bit later in her 20s. I just feel like 22, it felt, the age gap, it felt a lot for me personally. I mean, Beau, who's the guy, is amazing and lovely and awesome, but yeah, that just felt slightly uncomfortable. And the second thing that I struggled with a little bit was it kind of felt to me like he had a lot of PTSD. He has a lot of PTSD from his time being deployed in the military. And it felt like the theme of the book was a little bit, don't get therapy, just have sex instead. I don't know. They did acknowledge the fact that he wasn't getting therapy and that was the wrong thing to do, but it still felt like he was like, oh, I'm just gonna cure my PTSD by having sex and not get the therapy. I don't know. Those two things were like my only struggle with the final book, but I still love the town. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely, if you don't like reading spice, don't read these books. They're very spicy, or they were for me. They also use a lot of bad language, I can't deny it. And after initially like not being sure, I've decided, don't care, love it, actually love it. So highly recommend if you want a bit of cowboy romance in your life, small town romance, that is the gold standard. I've yet to read anything better from a romance series than that, like, loved it. And then the wonderful Elsie Silver has started her next series, which is so exciting. So Wild Love is the first in the, I think it's called Rose Hill, in the Rose Hill series. So the first one's all about Chestnut Springs. This series is all about Rose Hill. And this follows the brother of Willa, who is the girl in the second book. So this follows her brother, who is a billionaire, and I think he's dubbed something like the world's hottest billionaire, but he originally came from like small town roots. Anyway, he moves back to the small town, and the trope for this is like childhood friends to lovers. It's also got a bit of single dad trope in there as well. I loved this. I thought it was done so well. I feel like Elsie Silver just keeps getting better and better. This one was also like slightly less spicy, which to some degree I really enjoyed. I feel like this was more about, there was more going on elsewhere outside of the romance in a way, and it was slow burn. It was just fantastic, and I'm so excited to read the next ones that come out in the Rose Hill series. Yeah, Elsie Silver just gets like a smacking 5 stars from me across the board. To just summarize, the beginning of the month, I read all of those books in honestly 48 hours. I just could not put them down, and I've thought about almost nothing else since. So I'm now just guaranteed whatever Elsie Silver writes, I'm picking it up. Okay, right, moving on. This month, we also read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I feel like this is a very popular, like, BookTok internet sensation book, and I thought that it was okay. I was not blown away by it. I found some bits of it slightly cringe. I don't know why I didn't find Chestnut Springs cringe, because it kind of has all the makings of cringy stuff, but I just didn't find Elsie Silver's writing cringy at all somehow. I just loved it. Whereas this had a few eye roll moments. This I felt slightly cringy about. I only read it about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, and I already feel like I can't remember like all of it. For any Star Wars fans out there, they say that this book is basically like Kylo Ren and Rey fanfic, which, to be honest, I am a Star Wars fan. And it kind of is. Once you picture them, you can't unsee them. I mean, look on the cover, that even looks exactly like Kylo Ren and Rey if you've seen the movies. So yeah, it was all right, basically. I think if you just want a book to burn through, if you want to see what the fuss is about, like, maybe I'd recommend it. I'd probably give it like 3.5 stars. I wasn't like reaching to pick it up, but I kind of enjoyed it when I did. I think I described it on my Goodreads, which is exactly how I feel. I kind of wished it had been a show on TV that I could have been on my phone whilst it was on. I like wanted to watch it. I wanted to see what happened. I was interested. I also studied science at uni. So I did 4 years of biology, and these are biology PhD candidates. So I actually really loved all the science in it. A lot of that stuff kind of clicked and resonated with me, which I really enjoyed. But I know I've seen a few people say that if you're not really into science, then it's a bit more of a struggle just because there is quite a lot of science in this book. But yeah, I liked it, didn't love it. It was okay. Then for the very first time, I entered the Emily Henry universe. This was my first ever Emily Henry read. I read Happy Place, and I feel like I have mixed feelings about Happy Place because I did enjoy it, and I was like picking it up. This drilling is actually going to drive me nuts. I don't know, something about it just kind of bummed me out. I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but I feel like generally speaking it's mostly sad. Like it's a kind of a sad story, and it's second chance romance. There is more to it than just the romance. There's a lot about friendship, there's a lot about like letting go and moving on and growing up. But essentially it's about a group of friends who go back to the same place on the coast every year, and they have done since college. They're a group of friends that went to college together, or university if you're British, and this is their last summer and last opportunity to be able to go back to this place that they love so much and means so much to all of them and to their friendship as a group, as a whole. And it's really a story about how friendships change and evolve after you leave university and as you grow up and move apart geographically. And then the romance in it is about Harriet and Wyn, who were together, have broken up, but their friends don't know that they've split up, and they want to enjoy one final summer together in this house without spoiling it by telling all of their friends that they have in fact split up. So they kind of pretend to still be together while they enjoy their time there. I also think that, like, just being really honest, me personally, I didn't have like a group of friends like that at university where we were all so close and that friendship group stayed with me after university. So I don't think I have the same nostalgia as, I think if you had that or you have that with a group of friends, you probably enjoy this way more because it would resonate with you in that way, whereas it didn't. I don't know, it just, something about it just kind of bummed me out, and it just felt, it wasn't for me. So yeah, but I could still tell it was definitely like a very good book. I'd probably give it 4 stars, and I totally understand why for some people this is like an amazing read. Then I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, and this was a 5-star read. This book was so good. I absolutely loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. This book is about Daphne and Miles. The premise of it is completely bonkers, which I just think adds to the loveliness of this story. It is about Daphne and Peter, who were engaged, and Peter leaves Daphne rather suddenly for Miles's girlfriend. So both Daphne's fiance and Miles's girlfriend leave them for each other, and the only place that Daphne can live is in Miles's apartment. So the two that have been kind of dumped and left heartbroken end up living together as roommates. So it's kind of a forced proximity trope. I just loved it. I don't know, I feel like this book just didn't take itself too seriously, but was super wholesome and heartwarming, and it was lovely. It was just such a nice book. Yeah, and I remember I just got like full goosebumps when I read like the last line and I finished the book, and it was just a really, really lovely read. I highly recommend it, and to me this was just much more up my street than Happy Place, and it was fantastic. And then we read the controversial one, Fourth Wing, Rebecca Yarros. It's had its entire own vlog, so I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, but for those of you that haven't watched that vlog, essentially I had some problems with it. I found it slightly cringe. I eye-rolled in a few places. It didn't really grip me. I struggled with Violet as a character. I did really like Xaden, I suppose, but I just feel like there was a lot of depth missing for me across the board. I really did enjoy the dragons. The story definitely stuck with me, so once I finished it, I have been thinking about the story and I have been thinking about the book, but I'm not reading Iron Flame for now. I was going to try and listen to it on Audible. I don't have an Audible credit, and I don't really want to pay for it, which kind of probably just says enough. I don't want to spend £9 or whatever it is on there at the moment in order to be able to listen to it. So yeah, it was an alright story. If you haven't read any fantasy before, then I'd recommend it. If you've read a lot of fantasy before, I think you might be disappointed, just because I think the writing was just not there for me. I think the story was good. The romance could even have been awesome, but the writing just, it got in the way too much. So yeah, like 3 stars, 3.5 stars, something like that for Fourth Wing. And then I descended into a slump, and I basically found the last 10 days really hard of just not knowing what to read. So obviously there were loads of reads on my TBR for May that I'd set for myself that I have not read, and I basically picked up every single one of them, read the first 5 pages and put them back down again over the last few weeks. So I started to read The Disappearance of Rachel Price. I started to read Red Rising. I started to read Book Lovers, which actually wasn't on my TBR for May, but I picked it up anyway because I just really wanted to see what else I thought about the rest of Emily Henry's writing. I haven't even tried to pick up Six of Crows because I actually think I am gonna like that one, and I don't know, I feel like I'm saving it for something, sometime, but not yet. But yeah, every single time I picked up one of those books, I don't think it's a reflection on those books at all. Like, I genuinely enjoyed the first few pages, of the reappearance of Rachel Price. I honestly enjoyed the first few pages of all of them, but my attempt at having a month of reading all of those different genres has 100% failed, and it's basically been a romance exclusive month, apart from Fourth Wing, which is basically romantasy anyway. I blame The Sunshine for coming out partially, and I also blame Fourth Wing for putting me in a reading slump, because that is what did it. And then I discovered, of course, after 10 days of feeling pretty miserable, moping about, picking up books, trying to read them and putting them back down again, I was saying, right, what can I do? Should I reread Chestnut Springs, because that was like the highlight of my month, and try and reboost everything again? No. What I've done is discovered that Elsie Silver has another small town romance series. So over the last 48 hours, I have rescued my reading slump, which makes me so happy. And I have started reading the Gold Rush Ranch series, which is a little bit of a mouthful, which is Elsie Silver's first series that she wrote and is a lot less well known than Chestnut Springs, and obviously Rose Hill is now brand new. So the Gold Rush Ranch series is actually about the sister of the Eaton brothers. So where each of the Chestnut Springs series books are based on a different brother, they have one sister, and she moves away from home to kind of slightly strike out on her own, because it's only her dad and all of her brothers at home and she's the only girl. And she goes to work at a horse racing facility. So it's not exactly cowboy romance, but it is horse racing romance, I guess. It's a great series if you're a horsey girl. Like, if you love riding or have ridden and you enjoy horses and like horses, then it's such a lovely series. I read the first book yesterday. To be honest, I will finish the second book today, I'm sure. The first book, also, my Kindle's had a glow up. Isn't she cute? Let me just look, because I already can't remember what the first book was called. The second book is called A Photo Finish. The first book is called Off to the Races. I finished Off to the Races yesterday. What I will say is that you can definitely tell that it's like her debut novel. All of her writing in Chestnut Springs that like could be cringy but just isn't, because she nails the way that it's written, is slightly cringy to me in Gold Rush Ranch. I found myself like cringing a little bit and rolling my eyes at the things that were like trying to be super sexy, but I feel like just slightly missed the mark. Whereas, as I said, in Chestnut Springs, they just like were super sexy, even though they so could have been cringe. So I still enjoyed it, but I didn't really care about the couple in the first book. And the first book is not actually about the sister. The sister just works there from Chestnut Springs, but yeah, I just didn't really care about the couple much, and you could tell it was a debut novel. She was getting her feet wet. I still enjoyed it, but that was more of like a 3.5 read. I'd still 100% recommend it, because I'm now reading A Photo Finish, which is Violet Eaton, the sisters from Chestnut Springs story, and I am loving it so far. How far through am I? I love the fact on my Kindle I can know exactly how far through I am. Stop telling me you're out of battery, Kindle. I'm 30% of the way through and I'm absolutely loving it. It is probably on track to be another 5-star read for me. You can tell that she's like just tightened up the writing a little bit from the first book, and I'm loving it. So I'm now going to enjoy the rest of the Elsie Silver universe, and considering that I do have another couple of days to go before the 1st of June, what is the date today? I'm going to try and get this video up tonight. It's the 29th of May, so I might actually end up reading 11, maybe 12 books this month if I manage to complete the third in this series over the next couple of days. Based on how quickly I read the first slot, I very well might. Anyway, that was me rambling for so long. Wow. My tea is probably so cold by now. Oh, miraculously still warm. Anyway, so that is everything that we read in May. When I look at it like that, it actually was a really good reading month. I was feeling kind of bummed about it at the weekend, because I was just feeling like it was a bit of a rubbish reading month, but actually it so wasn't. It was a great reading month. It was just all condensed into the beginning of the month, and then I've kind of salvaged it in the last couple of days. But anyway, let's look ahead to June. What I will just acknowledge very quickly is, for those of you that are going to be disappointed that I haven't branched out more into other genres, is I'm 100% a mood reader. To me, that just means that like that spring and summer are just kind of meant for romance. Although admittedly, I do kind of love a mystery / thriller if I'm lying by the pool. So maybe I might do a little bit of mystery thriller once I actually go on holiday, but it is going to be quite a romance heavy genre next couple of months, just because I just love reading with the mood. And then as soon as autumn comes around, which I'm not going to get too carried away thinking about right now because we're at the beginning of summer, but I'm genuinely already excited for all of the books that I've earmarked for like spooky season, and when everything just slows down and gets cozy and comfortable, and I just feel like the entire genre of my reading is going to completely switch. Fantasy's going to come back out really strong, like thriller's going to come out really strong as we head into spooky season. So yeah, we mood read here, what can I say? Right, enough babbling. Let's talk about the books that are on my list for June to hopefully give you some ideas if you want to read any of these as well, and we can read them together and discuss them either in the comments here or over on TikTok. Right. June reads. Okay, my shelves are getting very empty behind me now that I've got all these books off them. This is the stack for June. So I've got 8 books here, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I've got 8 books here. I think 8 is it's like a decent list for me to start with for June. I feel like June's gonna be a busy month. I'm going to Italy in June, which I'm just so unbelievably excited about. It's such a bucket list location for me. We're going to the Amalfi Coast and then we're driving through Puglia, and anyway, I'm very excited. So partly that lends itself to being able to read a lot of books, but partly I think we'll probably be doing a lot of things. We'll be having a lot of adventure, and we're going for nearly 2 weeks. We're going for like 11 days or something. So that will take up a big chunk of my month, I think. So I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to get through like 11, 12 books like I have done the last few months, but let's see. Anyway, this is what is on the docket for June. Actually, I guess I'm already extending it by, it's already 10 books because I want to finish the Gold Rush Ranch series. So I'm gonna start off by doing the last 2 books of Gold Rush Ranch, which, like I said, maybe I'll read another one of them before we get to the end of the month. What I will say about this is that the entire series is on Kindle Unlimited, so you can read all the books for free if you have Kindle Unlimited, if you want to read those Elsie Silver books. So I'm reading all of those, and they also are coming out with brand new covers that look so lovely later in the year. And so I've actually pre-ordered all of those. So for now, I'm just reading them all on Kindle Unlimited, and then I'll get the actual physical copies of these books when they come out. So I'm gonna start with those 2, and then in no particular order, The 7-Year Slip. I have heard so many incredible things about this book, as loads of people say it's just their favourite romance ever. I truly know nothing about it. Oh my goodness, it sounds so good. Okay, I'm very, very excited to read this. I'll read the back of it for you, just like super quickly. 6 months ago, Clementine West had the worst day of her life, so she came up with a plan to keep her heart safe. Stay busy, work hard, take no risks, and it's been working. That is until one day she finds a strange man standing in her kitchen. A man with kind eyes, a crooked smile, and a recipe for the perfect lemon meringue pie. The kind of man that, before everything, she could have fallen for. He's perfect, but for one thing, he lives in the past. 7 years ago, to be exact. This should be impossible, but Clementine used to love impossible things, and maybe, just maybe, she will again. I've got no idea what that means! But that sounds so good. So I'm going to start with The 7-Year Slip as soon as I physically can, because that sounds absolutely spectacular. And then I'm going to read the books that I, again, tried to start this month. I forgot to mention Malibu Rising earlier, but I did try and start Malibu Rising and put it down again when I was in my slump. So I want to read Malibu Rising and then Carrie Soto Is Back. I originally bought Carrie Soto Is Back to read, but then I was told that Malibu Rising, like, they link somehow, you know, when they're kind of those independent but interconnected books. So I'm going to start with Malibu Rising and then read Carrie Soto Is Back. And then Book Lovers, again, it's one of the ones that I've started and then stopped, and I want to actually properly read it. I posted a couple of TikToks about this one, and lots of people say that it's their favourite Emily Henry book. Although it does seem to be that the Emily Henry community is very divided and everyone just has their own personal preference of favourite, but this one seems very popular, so I'm very excited to read this as well. And then I picked up A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I bought this very recently. As you know, I was going to read The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, and this was the book that she wrote before that one, and this, I know, is such a popular book for so many. So I might actually start with this and then read The Reappearance second, just because I kind of quite like to read authors' books to some degree in order, if I know about them in time enough to read them in order. Just because I quite like to watch like authors' writing evolve over time and see how their style evolves and changes. So yeah, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, let me know if you've read it. I've heard such good things. I honestly don't know much about it, but I know that it is a YA mystery thriller, so it could be a really, really fun one. And then maybe my most anticipated reads for the month of June is diving into the world of Abby Jimenez. I am so excited to read these books. These books are a 3-part series. The first book is Part of Your World. The second book, which seems to just be unanimously like one of the best romances ever, is Yours Truly. And then the third book, which came out literally just this year, is Just for the Summer. So I am so excited to read these 3. I'm going to start with Part of Your World. Like, as soon as I can, I'm going to have to work out what order to read all these books in and which ones I'm going to take away with me. But I've heard such fantastic things. I haven't read any Abby Jimenez before, and people just say that she's an absolute genius when it comes to romance writing. So that is it. That is the plan. We basically have 10 books on the TBR list for June. I'm going to try and actually stick to my TBR this month and read what's on it rather than deviating too much. I feel like it should feel a little bit more manageable this month, only because I don't have any like big, chunky, heavy books that I know are slightly complex to read. Like, hopefully these are all quite fun, fluffy romances, which are perfect for reading in the sunshine. Anyway, wow, I can certainly go on and on and on about books. If you are still here, if you're still watching, if you're still with me, thank you so much. Pop some romance associated emojis in the comments so that I can see you and I know that you made it all the way through me babbling about books. Each Wednesday is honestly going to be such a random mix of different types of videos. Sometimes we'll do reading vlogs, sometimes we'll do review videos, sometimes it'll just be bookish lifestyle things, shopping for books, reorganizing bookshelves, talking through my reading journal, how I find new books to read each month. Just let me know if there's anything in particular you want me to talk about. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having such a lovely week. And for those of you that enjoy my lifestyle content as well, I will see you on Sunday. And if you're just here for the books, I'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks so much for watching. I truly cannot wait to see you in the next one.